Hey there, YouTubers. This is Kevin from Survivor Super Fun Time Show. And today, it's really exciting. We're going to talk about Survivor 48, Episode 1. It was the first episode of this new season of Survivor, which unfortunately I don't think a lot of people are probably paying as much attention to as they probably should, because the looming threat of Survivor 50 is hanging over all of our heads at this point. But regardless, it was still a very good start to the season, and I have a lot of big thoughts on it, including, did Kevin fuck it up this week? We'll talk about that in a hot second. But first, I want to say hit the subscribe button to this channel so we can continue to yap about the game of Survivor together for the rest of the season. It's going to be great. All right, first I'm going to get into a criticism. We're going to start with super feisty Kevin for a second. The whole episode starts with basically casting footage of the castaways for Survivor 48 and saying, like, them being at home on their little Zooms, being told by the casting producer, how do you feel about being on Survivor 48? You're gassed, you know? And all their reactions, it's like, we as the viewers are watching them get really excited about the fact that they were just cast on Survivor 48. I actually found this to be crazy self-indulgent. Like, I really don't like when they do this, because it has nothing to do with the castaways. Just to be clear, it has nothing to do with the castaways. The castaways for Survivor 48, they should be stoked. They should have freaked out. They should have put up billboards saying, I'm on Survivor 48. But what I'm annoyed by is the producers want us to know that the producers are such awesome people for making these people's dreams come true. The game that we're about to see is not really about them. It's about the producers giving them the outlet to let the world see who they are. So thank you to Survivor, not to the players we're about to watch. And I don't like that. I didn't like it. So I thought it was a weird start to season 48, but fortunately that doesn't really hold me down all that much, because there's so many cool players that are on this season. I mean, I went into this episode feeling very positive about a lot of people. Thankfully, I left the episode, I think, feeling positive about even more people, which is awesome. I mean, starts off in the typical way. Jeff welcomes all three tribes, the Siva tribe, the Vula tribe, and the Lagi tribe. Right away, my vibes, the big characters are going to be on the purple tribe, Lagi. However, I think there's pretty big characters on the Siva tribe. They spent a lot of time with Siva for a tribe that didn't lose the challenge. So I think that's a good indicator for maybe what's going to happen moving forward. They opened up with the opening challenge, you know, the winner gets your supplies and all that stuff, which that tribe ended up being the Lagi tribe. Lagi ended up getting their stuff and they could kind of start the game together, which is awesome. And they built some really good relationships, but we'll talk about those in a hot second. The losers, the Siva and Vula tribe, what they had to do was they had to send one person each, kind of like for Survivor 47, and they had to go off and do a game where they'd face off against one another, and the winner gets a key to like the machete and the pot and everything like that, their supplies essentially. And that was a fun challenge because it was Kevin from the Vula tribe versus Kyle from the Siva tribe. And Kevin, in the earlier challenge, the opening challenge where they lost, he actually hurt his shoulder immediately, which I was sitting there and I was like, Kevin's fucking it up already. I knew he couldn't handle the weight of all the Kevins on those beautiful shoulders. I said it in my Don't F It Up Kevin video. I said, can you hold the weight of this? And you know what? The responsibility crushed him. It crushed his one shoulder in particular. But I do have to give it to Kevin in the one-on-one battle. He actually brought it together and he won that battle. Although, to be fair, he kind of won by default because Kyle actually screwed it up. He broke his pot that he had to fill up. The jug that he had to fill up with water, he actually cracked it with his pot. So it was impossible for him to win the challenge at that point, and Kevin could only win. So Kyle's really the one who fucked it up. It's the wrong K name, but Kyle, being the wonderful, moral, fibrous courage person that he is, he decided he was going to help Kevin finish his water jug anyway. Possibly really smart move on his part by creating a potential new relationship ally forward in the game, because Kevin knows that Kyle's a good dude. So I think that was a good move. He really only had stuff to gain, and I thought that was a good move by Kyle. So Kevin comes back to the Vula tribe, conquering hero, and he finds out that he's already been put in an alliance because people like Say and Justin, they're super excited to get this ball rolling. They want to start voting people out. But then Kevin has like Mary that they're kind of linking up with, and it's like, wow, Kevin's coming back and he's got a lot of options. He had to do almost no work in order to get them. Good day for Kevin. And Say is one of the most aggressive players I've seen in a very long time. Like right away, hitting the beach, talking, trying to, suss everyone out, and really looking for idols very quickly. Now, she's not the first one. Obviously, people look for idols all the time. but she found it very, very quickly. And she doesn't seem to have a lot of tolerance for sitting on her hands. And I think other people noticed that as well. The problem is she found the beware advantage. She actually did find the beware advantage, and she actually solved it. It was this series of like turtles and octopi and dolphins with different colors and different letters that help her open up a cryptex, essentially, that has an idol inside. Now, she needed help from a few different people, like Cedric, for example, who solved the code in order to get, say, her vote back. But that four-person alliance, I mean, I can understand why they were willing to kind of go all in. You know, having Cedric and Kevin and Justin really go with Say to help her out in this instance, it made a lot of sense, leaving Mary and Stephanie kind of on the outside in this alliance. Now, by the end of the episode, it factors in pretty heavily, you know, because the Vula tribe ended up losing the immunity challenge. So that's where that alliance really kind of came in handy. But going over to the Logi tribe was really interesting because there's huge personalities. You know, I knew Shauhin would be a big one. I knew Thomas would be a big one. I knew Star would be a big one. Joe, I thought would be a little more low key, but he was profiled very heavily. Same thing with Eva. I thought she'd be a little more of a low key, but she was profiled pretty heavily. And the reason why is because Joe and Eva actually now have a tight connection. I don't know why I didn't see this before the season even started. Joe seems to be a little bit of a crier, which is good. That means he's got a big heart. And Eva, I knew was going to struggle a little bit with some of the stuff because she so heavily spoke about her struggle with autism and how they can affect the social game. And I don't know why I didn't think of Joe and Eva just naturally being attracted in that way, because Joe has daughters, and I'm sure he's going to think of her as a daughter in this way. I mean, in one of his confessionals, he said he was willing to give up his game for Eva, essentially. So that's not something I would recommend for you, Joe. But I get it. It fits his profile from the little bit that I know of him. He's a fire captain, a dutiful guy who's probably playing the game because it's a dream, not because his family needs money, so he's willing to give it up. You have Star searching for immunity idols, not really being super aware. I actually kind of assumed that would probably be the case. Although I think Shauhin is someone who's probably going to be a little sneaky and go off and do some of that themselves, maybe on day 3 instead of day 1 or 2. It's bound to happen at some point. But personally, I hope that someone like Joe finds it so that he sticks around for a really long time, because I would love for Joe to win this game already. Thomas is really a straw that stirs the drink right now, because he starts off initially feeling really good about Bianca and creating kind of a relationship there. But then he comes off and creates an all-male alliance with the 2 other boys, Joe and Shauhin, and calls it the California Girls Alliance because they're all from California, which is like one of my favorite names for an alliance ever for multiple reasons. And he still he's pitching to the boys to bring in Bianca, while at the same time, Joe would like to kind of bring in Eva into that relationship. But really, the tight bond on the outside is Joe and Eva still. This twosome goes before the foursome. I mean, they're so tight at this point. Eva even let Joe in on the fact that she has autism, and even told him what really needs to be done in order to get her out of a loop in her head if things go wrong. Like basically squeeze the hell out of her hands to make sure that she can get out of that cycle, which is interesting. And I'm kind of curious how that affects Eva and, you know, kind of her everyday. But Logi's certainly off firing on all cylinders, but they don't have to worry about that. They were the first team that was finished in the second challenge in addition to the first challenge. Logi seems like they're going to be kind of a titan of a tribe. And I can say already, I think the tribes are pretty imbalanced. I think Green is designed to get their ass kicked in challenges. So hopefully there's a tribal swap just for the sake of competition. Otherwise, it looks like Nami is going to be storming through everybody once again. And I got to tell you, Vula is going to be Yanu. And then Siva tribe. Siva tribe, arguably the best characters on the season. Arguably. I mean, right away, Kyle comes back from the challenge. He lost. He told them he busted the jug and they got nothing. Problem there. But that's okay, because there's a lot of other things to worry about. I mean, the people themselves are really cool. Chrissy, we didn't learn a lot about. Chrissy seems, whatever, she's fine. I'm sure that in the future we'll get some more interesting things. Camilla, I think, is terribly interesting. We find out that Kyle and Camilla have a ton of similarities. Apparently, their favorite movies are the same. They both love holes. Well, that's a weird way to say it. They also love the movie The Departed. They're both Guyanese, which I think is really interesting. Like, they have a lot of connections. And I think it's great because going into the season, Kyle's my winner pick and Camilla is one of my other up there winner picks. So I really, really, really hope it goes well for those two in particular on the Siva tribe. I am so stoked they found each other, basically. David, it's funny because going into it, I'm like, all right, David's either going to be like super douchey musclehead or he's going to be like a really relatable golden retriever kind of guy. I think somewhere in between is where he landed in episode 1. For a guy who didn't find an idol, didn't cast a vote or anything like that in episode 1, he got a lot of screen time. Ton of screen time, which I assume tells me he's going to be around for a while. And if he isn't, he's going to flame out in a pretty big way. I mean, he was a huge part of trying to figure out some of the symbols, because the Siva tribe also had symbols around their camp, like a black octopus, a black dolphin, all this different stuff. A little bit different than what was going on at the Vula tribe, but still they had some symbols going on too, with like northeast, southwest. But we also saw like confessionals of him talking about how he could trust Kyle, he thinks. I mean, by the end of the episode, they end up having a 4-person sort of alliance between Camilla, Chrissy, David, and Kyle, which I think is a great alliance. I would love that. I don't like the fact that Mitch is left out, but what can you do? But having like Camilla work with David is not something that I truthfully expected, and I don't expect that to continue, but it very well could. And part of the reason why this alliance came to be is because Charity really started throwing Kyle under the bus in these little conversations. Like, she was trying to plant seeds in a way that it appears she thought was really clever, and maybe it was. But the problem is she said it to the wrong person, Camilla. By this point, Camilla was already enchanted by the connections between herself and Kyle. So I'm not sure it's going to go the way that she wants it to. Right now, it looks like she and Mitch are kind of on the outside. But they better hope that Siva wins a lot of challenges. And they could. They got a strong tribe. Not a good start for Charity, but a great one for two people that I'm really, really excited about in Kyle and Camilla. So anyway, as I had mentioned, they do the immunity challenge, which also had a reward where you could get some fishing gear and stuff like that. The winners, Loggy ripped right through it. Thomas did great on the puzzle along with Bianca. Have you heard this one before? This challenge is going to be moving some stuff around in an obstacle course and then it ends with a big puzzle. I know. I was shocked. Ripped right through that, which Bianca, by the way, she was pretty low key this episode. I don't expect that to last forever, but this episode is about pretty much everyone but her on her tribe, I think. Same thing with Star to some degree. On that big puzzle, Vula actually was in the lead for quite a while, but, Stephanie botched it up along with Kevin. And the Siva tribe came from behind and won the challenge, and that sent Vula to Tribal Council. Before Tribal Council, Say actually cracked the Beware advantage and got her vote back, and now has a hidden immunity idol, with Mary really being the one to push getting rid of Say. Rightly so, Mary said she does not trust Say, and it's like, well, she's been playing too hard. I think we should get rid of her. And they were really courting the idea of a Mary, Stephanie, Kevin, and Justin alliance to take out Say. Once it came to Tribal Council, Kevin and Justin really kind of chose their side, and they ended up going against that alliance, instead voted out Stephanie. And Stephanie, she herself used her shot in the dark. She knew what the deal was. She knew she was going home. I'm sure they had conversations about it at some point. And it failed like it pretty much always does, except if your name is Caleb. And she was sent out. Say got to keep her idol. But I have to agree with the boys' move on this one. Justin and Kevin, I will personally want to Say to go home, even though I got to support a Philly girl to some degree. But strategically, I think it's actually brilliant for Kevin and Justin to go with Say for right now. Because Say's only going to make themselves a bigger target. Whether they have an idol or not is a different story. It's really just a matter if you can make Say feel comfortable. That's really the goal. And if you can make her feel comfortable, then dump her. That's a huge win. I think Mary's someone that you probably want with you long term. I don't know if you want that for Stephanie or for Say. Say will not stick with you long term. Based on just context clues, she's playing too hard. She'll cut anyone. Mary, though, maybe. But let's get rid of Stephanie now. Let's keep the target bigger on Say. And then maybe next vote we can roll with Mary and keep her here. So I actually like the move by Kevin. So overall grade for Kevin this episode. If I have to say, did you have to mess it up or did you not mess it up? I'd say, Kevin, you did not fuck it up this episode for us. Good job, Kevin. Overall, I think it was a really strong start to the season. I'm actually really excited for what's going to happen moving forward. I think you have huge characters here. We're going to learn so much more. Looks like next episode, maybe Star is going to have kind of a bigger episode. Shauhin is going to have a bigger episode. I mean, obviously there's going to be more with like Say and Camilla and David and stuff like that. There's so much more on deck. The only thing is I just hope that we don't lose too much sight of Survivor 48 as the conversation around Survivor 50 continues on. But anyway, awesome first episode. Let's see how it goes in episode 2. I'm really excited. And yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. Remember to hit the subscribe button so we can keep talking about this and listening to commentary moving forward. Otherwise, hope you have an amazing day, everyone. You take care, and goodbye.